Hey, welcome to the show. You're listening to Beneath the Tarnish. I'm your host, Ralph Bryant, and I'm glad you're here. This is the day that the Lord hath made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Well, we like to open the lines of thought here at Beneath the Tarnish. You know, the kind of thoughts that you might not always care to think about, but you know you probably should. And I think that the topic of today's program is one of those topics that if you give it an honest go, you'll be glad you stuck around until the end. Now, having said that, I want to say this. If you've clicked on this episode and you think that you're going to get it all figured out in 2 or 3 minutes, let me save you 2 or 3 minutes. You're probably not. Plain and simple. I'm learning a lot about how curiosity got the cat with these episodes because, you know, I'm fairly new at this. So, yeah, these episodes, they're not a well-polished machine yet. But I'm learning. I mean, I try to keep these episodes down around the 20 to 30-minute range so that it, you know, don't eat up a huge amount of your time. Doesn't lock you down for a long period of time in order for you to get the point or the message of the episode. So what I'm trying to say here is give the episode a fair shake. Hang around until it does one of two things. One, it causes you to say, you know what? I think this guy's completely nuts. Or two, just maybe it causes you to consider, you know, this guy might be on to something. But I think if you hang around, you'll also find that probably on more than one occasion, you've thought about some of this stuff, but it was easier just to not think about it until we was forced to. Then you had to figure out how to deal with it. So hang around. I think you'll like it. Hey, but before we dive into today's program, guess what time it is? That's right, it's fun facts. We like fun facts here at Beneath the Tarnish. Yep. Did you know there's a thunderstorm called Hector the Convector? Sounds like a Mexican wrestler, don't it? There's a thunderstorm called Hector the Convector, and it arrives every day at 3 p.m. Now, most thunderstorms are unpredictable, but not old Hector. Thanks to a microclimate over the Tiwi Islands off of the coast of northern Australia, Hector arrives every day, 3 p.m., September through March. And this is a huge storm. This ain't just a rain shower either, folks. This thing comes in there at about 12 miles high. So it's a big thunderstorm. I bet them folks don't leave home without an umbrella, you want to bet? Could you imagine? Raining every single day at the same time? How about this one? In 1912, a man invented a human flying suit, and he jumped off the Eiffel Tower. What do you think happened? Yeah, you knew it. He fell to his death. His name was Franz Reichelt, and he was a tailor by trade, and he wanted to design a suit that could be used for parachute for pilots in the early days of plane travel. And after testing the suit on a number of dummies, old Reichelt, he was so confident that this thing was going to work that he put it on himself and he jumped off the lower level of the Eiffel Tower, fell to his death. Oh, God. Yes, that didn't work out too well. There you have it. Yep. You know what we say? Either one of those and a couple dollars ought to get you a cup of coffee down at your local convenience store. If it don't, you're being ripped off. Well, let's jump in here. Have you ever known anybody that had run into someone they knew? Well, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe even you. You ever run into somebody you knew, and a couple days later, you see their obituary in the newspaper? You ever do that? Or heard someone say, "Man, I just talked to that guy the other day." I have. I've done both. You had no idea that day that you saw that person, you spoke with them, that's going to be the last time you ever saw them in your life. You ever wonder what if we would have known? What if you did know that was going to be the last time you saw that person? You ever think about how that conversation might have went? Chances are you haven't. Why is that? I know what I think it is. I think it's because we've conditioned ourselves not to. You see, that would rain on our parade. That would take away the shock, the suddenness, the guilt and the grief and the pain, the sting, if you will, of all the emotions that we're supposed to experience when we lose the loved one. Because that's my grief. You stay out of it. But if we had known that was going to be the last time we was going to see that person, and we had said our goodbyes and our I love yous, we wouldn't have to deal with all that rutting stuff, would we? That's not how we're programmed. See, we've programmed ourselves to grieve. Let me give you a recent example of what I'm talking about. Recently, there's a big story in the news headlines down in Texas. There's a young man down there by the name of Carmelo Anthony. Just stood trial. And he was convicted, sentenced 35 years in prison. It appears that this young man, this Carmelo Anthony, now he's 19 now, but when this all took place, he was 17. But it appears that this guy and another young man by the name of Austin Metcalf, who was 17 also, they got into an altercation at a high school track meet. And this Anthony kid, he whips out a knife and he stabs this Metcalf kid in the heart and kills him. Now, at a sentencing, when you have a trial like this, usually the victims' families and friends, they get an opportunity to read the victim's impact statement. You know, a statement to let the court know how this crime has impacted their lives and how it's going to impact their lives moving forward. And the victim's father, this Metcalf's father, when he got up and read his statement, he had this to say in his statement. He said, "I remember that morning well. I had made Austin lunch to take to the track meet with him. But I had no idea that was going to be the last time I saw my son." When his son left the house that morning, what do you think the conversation sounded like? Probably, "Bye. See you later. See you after school." Let me give you another one. I recently just ran into a lady that I know her very casually. I don't know her that well at all, but I ran into her down at the gas station. And I could tell she was in a hurry and looked visually shaken a little bit. I said, "Uh-oh, you're running late." And she said, "No. My brother-in-law was just killed on his motorcycle, and I've got to go take my sister to the coroner's office to claim his body." That was about 80 miles away. started to tear up, and she said, my niece, his daughter's birthday is next week. She didn't even get to see him when he left the house this morning. Now, you're thinking about the harshness and the reality of these two examples. But the fact of the matter is, this is how we programmed ourselves to approach these types of scenarios. Don't think about it until we're forced to, and then we'll deal with it. We have conditioned ourselves to act as though we have all the time in the world. But what if? What if we approached every time that we saw one of our loved ones, someone that we cared for, especially family members and friends? What if we approached them every time we see them like that was going to be the last time we ever saw them again? Think that'd make a difference? I absolutely do. Let me explain what I mean, why I say that. Let's say you have a family member. That family member lives across town. Or better still, maybe out of state or in another city, or could even be a different country. I mean, you don't get to see each other every day. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, the only time you see them maybe on holidays or family reunion every few years or a special occasion. And then when you do get to see each other and you get together, oh man, you're just so happy. The hugs start flying. You can't wait to sit down and start getting caught up and all that. But then it comes time to leave. You say your goodbyes. Say, see ya. See you later. Hey, give me a call. Never thinking for a minute that might just be the very last time you ever see or talk to that person again. You see, love is the strongest force in the world. I mean, love caused God to give his only begotten Son, so that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 3:16, we all know that one. So yeah, love is the strongest force in the world, but only in its purest form. Let me say that again. Love is the strongest force in the world, but only in its purest form. You can't water down love. You can't downplay it and still call it love. No. It's no longer true love at that point. But that's what we do. Bye. See you later. And then we say we love those people. What do you suppose would happen when we're getting ready to depart from a loved one or a friend? What do you suppose would happen if we approached it like this? I want to let you know something. I love you. And I'm so grateful that you're part of my life now. And I want you to know, just in case anything should happen, I want you to know that I love you with everything in me. What do you suppose happened? Here's what I believe would happen. I think that the bond between you and that family member would strengthen and improve beyond measure. I think the love and the joy and the happiness that you two felt for one another would increase so much that it would be more than either one of you had ever dreamed of. I think that you would begin to see life in a different light. I think you would see life the way God intended on us to see life, through the eyes of love. That's just what pure love does. And think about this. If you're loving your family this way, and you let that love carry over into your friendships, your close friends, those that you love and care for, consider your friends, maybe those you've known all your life. If you learn to love them this way and treat them as though it may be the last time you get to see them, I believe you'll begin to reap the same benefits you did with your family members. The love and the joy and happiness, that unbreakable bond. That if anything should happen, you know and they know that you love them. And that you were grateful that they were a part of your life. I'm telling you, you'll start to see a change in your life and theirs. Love. We got to learn how to love. We got to quit being so macho, so manly, so reserved, that we can't tell those that we love or care about, we can't tell them that we love them and that we're grateful that they're in our life. Life is short. The Bible says it's like a vapor. You don't think so? You put it side by side with eternity. You put our time in this life side by side with eternity, where we're all headed. And you be the judge. Which one's longer? This life's too short not to love one another. You want to hear the really profound thing about this? Check this out. When you have learned to let go and love your family with pure love, and when you have learned to let go and love your friends with pure love, treating them as every time you meet, that it may be the last time that you ever get to see them. Who's left to look? That's right. Your neighbor. Just like the Word of God instructs us to in Mark chapter 12, verses 30 and 31. And thou shalt love thy Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this: thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. Mark chapter 12, verses 30 and 31. It all sounds so simple, don't it? And you say, hey, I love my family. And I know you do. I'm just saying that oftentimes we take the little things for granted, when in reality, those little things, they're huge. But we really usually don't realize that till something happens and we're forced to deal with it. Want another example? How about you? How about this morning? When you left your house this morning, how did your goodbyes go? How did they sound? Bye. See you later. See you after work. Uh-oh. Maybe you was upset with each other, never even said anything. Not even thinking for a minute that might be the last time you ever saw that person. Nope. Because we're programmed. We're deceived into believing that we have all the time in the world. And that should have been our first red flag right there. Because when push comes to shove, we absolutely have no control over our time on this earth. And then we seem stunned when our time is up. Now, you want to be careful here and don't get caught up playing the odds, because listen to this. There's approximately 8,600 deaths per day in the United States, or 3.1 million deaths per year. About 8,600 deaths per day. Out of those, there's approximately 1,230 of them that are completely and totally unexpected, or about 500,000 unexpected deaths per year, ever how you want to look at it. So at that rate, it's only a matter of time until you and I ourselves are faced with one of these scenarios. But when it comes, we feel like we didn't have enough time to say all we wanted to say. I mean, we were supposed to have all the time in the world, right? But you see, with cards like this stacked against us, like these numbers right here, we don't have all the time in the world. And we don't know when that time will be. But we have time right now. Use it wisely. Well, that about wraps it up. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor while you're here. Drop down in the comments. Let us know where you're listening from. We like to know where our listeners are hearing us at. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at beneaththetarnish@gmail.com. That's beneath the tarnish, all one word, @gmail.com. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Until next time, remember, it's not right if it's not God.